I'm Jared Falk, and today we're going to teach you how to mic your snare drum. A lot of you have been asking how we get such amazing snare drum sounds on the drumlessons.com videos. So what I've done is I've brought out Victor Guidera from behind the board, and we're going to put him in front of a camera, and he's going to teach you guys exactly what he does to get amazing snare drum sounds. So take it away, Victor.
Right, so first thing would be a mic choice. What are we going to use for the snare drum? There are all kinds of microphones, all types and styles and prices. Probably the most universal snare drum microphone, and has been the industry standard for years, the Shure SM57. Cannot go wrong with a 57 on a snare drum.
And that's very, very affordable as well. They're under $100 most of the time, right?
Brand new, and under if you look for it hard enough.
Yeah, you can probably find it for $50 on Craigslist or
Right.
eBay or any of those kind of places. So definitely check that out. Okay, so what's the next step? Now that we have our snare drum here, I've got my Evans heads on it. Obviously, the drum is a really, really good starting point. If you have a nice sounding drum,
Then tuning
tuning
very well.
is going to be the next step, and then miking techniques. So exactly what do you do? Where do you place the mic on the batter side of the drum?
Right, so let's just jump right in. Let's grab the mic off the side here, and we'll put it in. Okay. So I'm coming in from this angle because there's the most space for me to get the actual microphone in the kit. And I'm not going to come from the other side of the snare drum and point it into the snare drum. I'll mention that in a bit. So I'm just going to place it in. Okay, so now that I got the microphone in there, I'm just going to make some fine-tune adjustments, and I'm also going to have to maneuver it around so that Jared can actually play and not hit the microphone when he moves to the other toms. And same with you if you're recording yourself or another drummer. Okay, so first off, I'm not going to bring the snare mic. There's tons of room back here to actually position the microphone and get it where I want it. I'm not going to do that though, because we want to be aware of something called bleed or mic leakage. So if I point the snare drum mic from this angle, what's going to happen is the bass drum is directly behind the snare. So this mic will actually pick up a lot of bass drum sound, as well as toms, because the toms are in that direction as well. So what we kind of generally want to do with a microphone on each shell of the kit is we want to kind of point it backwards as much as we can away from the other pieces of the kit, away from the cymbals, away from the shells, bass drum. And so we come in. I can't come in from this angle. It'll be in the way of playing between the toms, because that would be straight back. Then if you think of what's behind here, there's nothing behind here. So the closest I can do, the best thing that I can do is come from the angle that we're at and point it as much away from the kit while still trying to maintain pointing it directly at the snare drum. So when we're miking drums, there aren't too many rules per se, but I'd like to follow some guidelines and help you understand some of those. So what I start with is a good kind of rule of thumb is grabbing 3 fingers and making the snare drum mic about the height of your 3 fingers or 4 fingers or so. We just want to be about 2.5, 3 inches above the snare drum. And also we don't want to have the mic in the way of playing the toms. So we got to keep that in mind at every step of the way here. So what I want to do is ideally I'd like to have the snare drum mic directly above the drum and grabbing as much of the well-rounded sound of the drum as possible. But that doesn't work. So I'm going to get as close as I can off the edge, out of the way of the rest of the toms, hi-hat, and I'm going to angle it in at approximately a 45-degree angle. And for me, personal preference, and for what we do here, I like to point it more towards the center of the snare drum. If you point it towards the edge, it'll sound a little bit thinner, which is okay, and if you have a certain genre application that you want it to sound thinner, go for it. So I'm just going to position it about a 45, close to the edge of the snare drum, pointed at the center of the snare drum, and that's about it. And then from there, I would get Jared to start playing and see if it's in the way at all, and we may have to adjust the microphone. If anything, it looks like it may have to go down a little bit.
Because it looks when we plugged it in, the back of the mic cable is going to hit here, unless you have one of those mic cables that's a 90 degree.
Exactly, right angle cable.
So I think it's also important to mention that these are the techniques that we use to get the sounds
Absolutely.
that work best for us, in our room, on our drum sets, in our studio. And so, if you go somewhere else, sound engineers might do something completely different, and that's
Absolutely.
fine. We're not saying this is the only way or this is the way you have to do it, otherwise your snare is going to sound bad.
Right.
People experiment and try different things and get some amazing sounds using their own techniques, but this is what we do.
that's kind of where I've come along in my training and my experiences with recording multiple different drum sets and different amounts of shells in those drum sets. And different sizes, depths, all that kind of stuff, and working with other engineers and drummers. And these are kind of my techniques, just fine-tuned, that work with us the best. So
Cool. So what do you do for the bottom of the snare drum? Now I know not everyone mics the bottom, but we do. We top and bottom mic everything as far as the toms and the snare drum goes. So can you tell us what you do on the bottom?
Well, what we're trying to do with when us or other people mic the bottom of the snare drum is we're trying to get a little bit of a brighter sound, and we're trying to get the snare wires in there. And when we actually mix in the two microphones, the top mic and the bottom mic, we'll have a little bit less of the bottom mic, just because it's thin, but it sounds like you get mostly the snare wires in it. So I'm just going to grab the bottom snare mic, and we'll put it in. Now, if you recall, ideally, on the top mic, I would have liked to have it directly at the top in the center of the drum, but the playing and everything would get in the way, his sticks, his arms. So with the bottom mic, I can get it right where I want it. I'm going to put it right in the center of the drum, and I'm going to point it just at the snare wires, and I'm going to keep that approximate 3-finger rule or so, about 2-3 inches. As simple as that. So you notice that the bottom microphone is also a Shure SM57. It's a good rule of thumb, and again, not a rule, but a good kind of a guideline to use a matched pair of microphones. And the 57, again, has been the standard for the bottom of the snare drum as well for many years.
So you guys, that's how we get our snare drum sounds on all of our videos. Like I said before, there's many, many different techniques. This is what we use. I hope it's going to help you when miking up your drums, whether it's in the studio, whether it's for live, or whatever you're doing. In future videos, we're going to talk more about what we do to EQ the drum and stuff like that. So please stay subscribed, and we'll get to those videos later on. But thanks so much, Victor, for coming out and sharing your knowledge. We'll see you guys in the next video. Take your shoes off, you're gonna make less noise.
Yeah.
And today, I'm gonna teach you, I'm gonna try it. Mics all my drums and sets it up. So let me try it again. A lot of you guys have been asking,
Rules when you're miking these drums. Okay, so now that I got the microphone, so if I point the snare drum mic from this angle,